Welcome to another episode of the Holistic Sister Circle. Today we have something very interesting, and it is our trad wife versus boss babe debate. And the goal of this episode is actually for all of us to get to a happy medium because at the end of the day, who knows? Maybe if you're in a season where a trad wife makes sense. Maybe you're in a season where a boss babe makes sense. But wherever you are, we want to make sure that we can respect each other and each other's opinions. So on today's episode, we are super excited to have some of us from the trad wife side and some of us from the boss babe side. So for this to work and to get started, I am going to ask a question. I'll be the host, of course. And from that question, you all have about 60 seconds to state your claim. And after that 60 seconds is over, if anyone has a rebuttal, you can go ahead and rebuttal at that time. Or if anyone wants to chime in before that person is over, I'm more than happy for you to do that too. Okay. No rules, but play nice.
No rules. Wow. Okay.
No rules, but play nice. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Course.
So first question is, does success look like career achievement or family first devotion? And we're going to first start with Laura.
Hello. That was a really good question. And, I've had both. And so I think it's hard to choose, right? Because I think in stages of our life, we get to a place where it's like, this is what I want to do. I just want to be a mom and stay home and focus on my family, or I want to have a career because I don't know if we can do it all. I know we're going to talk about that later, so I'll wait. But I think there's a happy medium. And also I think that there's safety. If there's safety, then being at home with your kids and doing that life is great. And then also the other side, if you can have your own business and that's what you dream of, that to me is very exciting. I've had both and I have loved both in each stage of my life. I'll be giving you a lot of middle of the road answers. I'll promise you that. Because I've been both.
Awesome. Thank you. Monica.
I would say that has been my experience too. I've had both. I've been able to stay home with my kids as much as I've wanted. I've also created very successful businesses. And so I think success looks like being able to match your behaviors with your values. And so, my family always does come first, but part of that is being able to model for them the fact that they can have anything that they want. And so I think success looks like being able to be there for your children while also being there for yourself, learning, accomplishing, doing the things that are important to you. So I think successful family life looks like making room for everyone in the family to be able to achieve the things they desire.
Joaneace. Joe, if you're talking, we can't hear you. Okay.
There she is.
Oh, there it goes. Hi. I've had the opportunity to be home with my kids when my youngest was born. That was when I stopped working. Probably up until 2000 and like 22, 23, it was like, okay, you have to go back to work. So I guess during that time it was kind of hard for me to measure success because I felt like I was just at home, homeschooling the kids. And it wasn't until I went back into the workforce that I kind of felt like I'm moving towards a little bit more successful life. Though I enjoy being home with my kids, during that time, it was just hard to be able to support them. So it kind of made it like hard to find the success during that period of being home with them. So like fast forward now, working full time, but still being able to be there for my kids as well. I'm big on like, the work-life balance, whether you are in the 9 to 5 or you have a business. I'm really big on that now, like making sure that my work doesn't take all of my focus and my all of my kids' activities don't take away um from myself as well. So I think for me being successful is being able to balance both of the two in like a healthy way, so that the kids can develop and grow and see what it looks like to have, very active parents, but parents who also still have to work as well.
So we have one question from the audience too. What does working mean? Does it mean fulfillment beyond motherhood?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think it can look like any number of things. I think traditionally you would think of anything that you do that brings in an income, like with something working would imply putting a monetary value to the services you offer, regardless of what you're doing. But I think what Joaneace said was really interesting in that basically making room for everyone in the family. So I think what's successful is, yeah, we make room in the family for, Johnny to do soccer, which means that we pay money, we make time, we change the schedule. Sometimes we travel, whatever that looks like. We make room for dad to do what dad works, has hobbies, whatever those types of things. But also we do that for mom as well. So if mom is traveling for a speaking engagement or, is doing a book launch or, needs quiet in the house, we make room for all of those things. So I think that to me is what successful family like, and working would be anything that's bringing in some sort of monetary value.
Yeah.
I mean,
love that.
working to me though, even though yes, you could look at it in a sense of like a monetary thing, but I feel like I'm always working and not everything that I do does bring in some type of financial gain to the family. I mean, from the time we're up, we're working on something, whether you are
Mhm.
getting your house clean, you got to do something. I feel like it's always a constant work, regardless if you're getting money or paid for it. Of course, we like to see being rewarded with, being paid, but I just feel like my job never ends because even though I clock
Yeah.
out at 5 p.m., there's still a ton
Mhm.
of other little things to get done. So I think it can kind of go both ways.
I agree with you in that. I mean, motherhood is absolutely work, changing diapers, making dinner, taking kids places. I mean, all of that is work. But I just think for the purposes of this discussion, when you're talking about traditional wife versus a boss babe, you're talking about the
Money,
work part of that is bringing in
the
mon-
money.
yeah, bringing in money.
I have one other question that's coming in. How does this play a role for your children? Are you expecting them to bring in money as well?
It depends on their age.
Yeah. I think
I
it's
mean, I think at some
important.
point,
Oh,
Yeah,
I
at
think,
some point, yes.
well, yeah, for us, when my kids were younger, yeah, when they were old enough to maybe want more money for things, I remember my parents saying, you should probably go get a job and then you can have money. And so I think having showing them that kind of thing, that they can do things so that, yeah, they could go out and get a job and contribute that way. So they're not just asking. That was something we did, and that worked out well.
Yeah. I think part of teaching our kids is teaching them how to create value in the world. Like for example, I never leave my house. I mean, I am a stay-at-home mom, but I bring in an income because what I do brings value to other people and they pay me for it. So,
Mhm.
working can look very different for lots of people. Some people have to go outside of the home to work, and some people can work inside of the home. It's just different. So, but teaching our kids how to create value in the world and in the marketplace is, a very valuable
Mhm.
lesson.
I know for me, when living with my dad, so it was like I said, it depends on the age. Because I started working at 16, but I also wanted my own car. I wanted to do certain things. So I know that that was something my dad was big on, like, well, you can go get a, job and you can buy the things that, you want. You're at that age
Mhm.
where you can do those things. But it also taught me a lot of responsibility at a young age, which I feel like has helped me um in my adult life, being
Mhm.
that I started working and having my own responsibilities at like a young age.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Awesome. We
sure.
have one other question that came in, but I think it's going to tie into the second one. So if it doesn't, then I'll ask it. Can women have it all? Or does choosing one path inevitably mean sacrificing the other?
Mm. Well, I think, like boss babes maybe sometimes gets glorified for like hustle culture. And then, maybe the trad wife is, it's a soft life or something like that. But it's like life is so much more nuanced than that. And so there's, these are curated highlight reels on both, right? So I think we have to be careful with that and in seeing, because we are seeing the highlight reels because we know that the work at for the mom is 24/7, even if we are also a boss babe. It's like it's 24/7 trying to balance it all. So we just have to keep that in mind.
Yeah. And I feel like yeah, I think you can absolutely have it all. Maybe not at the same time. And, maybe not in the order that you would like. But so, like, for example, with me, I get a lot of offers to do speaking engagements and travel and do certain things that I don't accept because I don't want to miss my children growing up. It happens so quickly. I have 4
Mhm.
kids, 2 of them have left home, 2 of them are still here, right? And so if I get an offer to go do a speaking engagement in Florida, and my daughter has a volleyball tournament, I'm going to turn it down. But that's
Mhm.
only for a couple more years because then she's going to graduate and I
Mhm.
will have a wide open
Mm.
schedule. So can I have it all? Absolutely I can, but maybe not. There are times in season for certain
Mm.
things. And I do very much believe that family comes first. And so I'm not going to miss a big milestone
Right.
for my
Hmm.
children or something that's important to them in order to further my career because I know that in just a couple
Mhm.
of short years then I can
Hmm.
do
Yeah.
all the things and not be bound by
Mhm.
any schedules of anybody else.
I can agree too. I think there's a time and place like for everything. So like this season of my life, my kids are all young. So and they're all in
Mhm.
sports. So like our Saturdays are full of sports from 7 in the morning to, 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon that day. So we try to surround our life around their schedule as well because like you said, you don't want to miss those moments. Like my 5-year-old just had her first flag football game
No.
and everybody was there because you don't want to miss those
Yeah.
big moments for something that you can get tomorrow. Like you can get an offer again tomorrow and not miss anything. So I'm really big on like my family and my kids, they come first before,
Yeah.
anything to me. That's important to me.
Yeah.
Okay, here's an audience question. What's the definition of a traditional wife in 2025? Is it modeling a 1950s ideal or something different?
Wow, good question.
That's a great question.
Who wants that? Who wants that question?
I I don't think there is a definition. I
Yeah.
mean, I would consider myself a traditional wife. I would also consider myself a boss babe. It just depends on the day. Like
Yeah.
Right.
some days, and I am very, very blessed and grateful that I make my own schedule. But some days, I mean, our basement flooded this past weekend. So
Yeah.
some days my day is full of like moving the fans around downstairs and calling the plumber and getting an appointment for my son and that's
Yeah.
it's a very traditional wife day. And then
Yes.
Hmm.
some days I have interview after interview after appointment after appointment after appointment that's bringing in cash to me. So
Yeah.
some days I put my boss babe hat on and some days I'm a traditional wife. And I don't think there is a good definition for a traditional
Mm-mm.
wife in 2025. I think it is what you desire.
I
That's
agree.
for sure.
I
Yeah.
agree. Because some days I feel like one, and then some days I feel like the other. And it's never like a consistent day of like how
Right.
I would classify myself. And I think I said that in my intro video that you kind of got to mix the two together, just to be whoever it is that you desire to be. They can definitely be intertwined. Like you said, one day you're this day, mom, and that. So yeah, I can agree with that.
And frankly, I think that that's the traditional life. It's like we really we're doing it all, though I think people maybe see it as, oh, you just stay home. And it's like, you don't even know what I did today. You know what I mean? Like I
I
had
could
a
stay home every day.
right. Well, me too. So, I had a when my kids were little, I had a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a newborn when I was staying home. I was staying home when the newborn was born. And then he had special needs. So man, like life was just turned upside down. And it's like I love those years. And then
Mm.
half, like 5 years later, I said, how about I go back to school and become a speech therapist? And so that's what I did. And so it's like I love those seasons of life where we're like, this is what we're going to do right now. This is
Mhm.
what we're doing. And then, but I was still a mom while I was going to school, and then also while I was a speech therapist. But the choices I made were to work in an elementary school so that I could be home with my kids.
Right.
So it's like I balanced all that, and exhausting. But that's I think that's just who we are as women. Seriously, why we need superhero capes.
Right.
Here's a comment that came in. I feel like we as women are sold a lie of traditional wife. Our parents, grandparents, great grandparents weren't living this idyllic life we thought.
Yeah,
Mm.
there was a lot of depression. There was a lot of, you know, unhappiness. So I work with couples, and I deal a lot with the kind of residual of that, of women, especially because that's what we're talking about, seeing their mothers unhappy, resentful,
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I don't know how you would define a traditional wife back then versus how you would define a traditional wife now, but I do think there's a lot more room to be the author of your own life, to create your own life in a way that feels good to you.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
we have choices now. So we have more choices than our parents even had, you know.
So
So
many
that's
more.
so many more choices. Yeah. So that
Yes, like working online, the way we commute, where we
yes.
live, how we work,
Right.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't while I grew up with my mom and dad both worked, and my mom and dad both cooked. And one of them was home when I got home from school. But I saw that my mom was very traditional as far as like she served my dad. And I think that's what I envisioned marriage to be, kind of that serving your husband thing. And I think that's also part of how we were societalized, also,
Mhm.
is that's how we were societalized as women. So that's what I saw being modeled.
Is financial independence a non negotiable for modern women? Or can dependence within a traditional role be just as empowering?
I think there needs to be safety as far as what kind of access do you have to the money if you are at
Mhm.
home and you don't bring in your own income, but you are working as a full-time mom, right? But what kind of income or what kind of access do you have to money? Because that's where you find that financial freedom as far as you have choices. If you have access to the money, if you know what's going on with the money. And I think that's I work with women who are leaving narcissistic abuse. And so those are the things that I hear. There's a lot of financial abuse. And those are the things I worry about and think about with moms who want to stay home. It's like, do you have access to the money? Do you know what's going on? Those kinds of things. It's just being informed. And do you feel safe in the situation you're in?
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's a great answer. I think
Yeah.
it's according to your comfort level. I think
Mhm,
it's according
mhm.
to your situation.
Case by case, every household is different, and everybody dynamics in their marriage is different.
Mhm.
Um, some women work, they are stay-at-home moms, but they generate, some type of income doing simple things. I know I have a friend, she does like a lot of like herbs and juices and stuff like that. So it brings in her something to at least like for herself. So it makes her
Yeah.
feel like she is, doing something for the household financially versus just like, doing all the cooking and cleaning.
Right.
So I think it's just like a, household by household, and what is ever discussed between the wife and the husband.
Mhm.
I just think it's like that. I just feel like now a lot of women are desiring to get their own money, like whether they're staying, if they're at
Mhm.
home, they're finding ways that they can be home with their kids, but still generate some money
Yeah.
just for the sake of it. I think that's what I've noticed a lot here lately when it comes to
Mhm.
wives.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, here's a comment that's coming in. There's so many women who believe, or wait, there's so many women who are unsure of what it actually means to be a wife. And when they're now in this role of wife, they drop their boss babe hat and they just want to live soft and
Mm.
allow the man to take over completely. What are your thoughts there?
Well, and I know Monica's gonna have a good answer
Like
for this.
I could teach all day on this topic.
I
Let's
mean,
go.
Monica's probably got an entire course on this. So I have to say, look, you got to have good communication in your marriage. Like it cannot be a surprise to your new husband. You walk in the door, you're like, by the way, I just quit my job and I'm just gonna hang out here. Like that is not okay. Like we got to have some communication. So if that's your dream, that should be a discussion that you're having throughout your
Hmm.
relationship. Monica, your turn.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. So a concept that we teach a lot is called differentiation, meaning a strong sense of self, individuality in relation to another person, right? So it's being, it's we want to belong to ourselves. We want to feel individual, like we're fulfilling our own dreams, and we have
Mhm.
choices and we have freedom in the relationship. But we also want to feel like we belong to another person and to the relationship, and an
Yeah.
important part of that, couplehood. So being strongly differentiated is really important. But yeah, like Laura said, you're constantly renegotiating that your whole life. You may come into the marriage thinking I'm going to stay home with my kids, and then you've got a couple of kids and you're like, this is not what I actually want to do, and so it's time to renegotiate that.
Mhm.
Or, you could be working and being like, no, I'm going to work. And then you're holding that baby in your arms and you're like, nope, I'm going to stay home and take care of this baby. So, yeah, it's like a constant tug and pull, and your spouse is going to have opinions about that. And so it's like, can we maintain a strong sense of individuality? Can we advocate for ourselves? Can we talk about the things that are important to us,
Mhm.
even if we've changed our minds and we change our mind back? Like,
Yeah.
there's different stages and seasons of life, and all of those things can be renegotiated with strong communication skills. So yeah, it's really important to be able to, what is it that I want here, and how can we renegotiate the expectations and roles and things that we've decided on previously. So that's constantly throughout life. I mean, my husband and I started a
Yeah.
business together, then I started having a bunch of children, and then I was like, I got to stay home with these kids, and then I was like, I can't stay home with these kids anymore, I got to do my own thing. And so, we renegotiated all of that many, many times, and it's just, again, it's what works for the couple in the season that they're in.
I
I
agree.
love.
I think communication is the biggest thing, and being able to communicate your expectations when you're going into something, that always helps, because if you're going into it with that expectation and not expressing that expectation, you'll see like you'll get let down because you came in thinking that, oh, I'm just going to come in, I'm going to be a stay-at-home wife and mom and all these things, but your husband has an expectation where he
Mhm.
may want you to be able to work a few hours, or he may want you to get out the house and not be underneath the kids. So I think it's a relationship by case. Um, but yeah, you just have to be able to communicate that with your spouse. And like you said, as the seasons change, to be able to go back and say, hey, I know that we originally agreed on this, but This isn't working for our family in this season, or this isn't working for me in this season. How do we move forward, so that we all are, being satisfied in this.
Yeah. It's great. I love that word, renegotiate. Love that.
Here's a comment. How much does a husband's desire play into being a boss babe or traditional wife?
Ooh,
Mm.
that's a great question.
Yeah.
So I teach a concept called collaboration. And so I think traditionally, we think of this word compromise. Like marriage is all about compromise. You give a little, I give a little, we meet in the middle, and then no one's happy. And I hate that word.
Yeah.
And so instead I teach collaboration. So like, what is my position? What is your position? Why do I feel strongly about my position? Why do you feel strongly about your position? What are my reservations about your position? And what are your reservations about my position? So it's about communicating. It's about getting really curious. It's about, figuring out, what is it that I want? What is it that my spouse wants? And how do we collaborate? How do we take the best of their experience and perspectives and opinions and the best of mine? And how do we create something together that's better than either of us could have come up with on our own? It's a very different than compromise. So the traditional idea is compromise. The new idea is collaborate, right? Like create something amazing. Because like we've already talked about, there's so many options. There's so many resources. Like our work-life balance, our home, whatever doesn't have to look like anyone else's. We can create it all on our own. And then the other thing I say that's really important is try it. If it works, then great. If it doesn't work, then renegotiate it. Collaborate again. Now you have more information, more data to put into, to put on the table. So yeah, life is about constantly renegotiating what works for both of us. And so, yes, I would say it is important to take into consideration what your spouse wants, but no more than what you want, right? Together, you're collaborating on something that's better than than either of you could have come up with on your own.
I agree, man.
And that's the definition of partnership.
Yeah. And these are great conversations to have before you get married.
Yeah.
I didn't do any of these things. I was very young.
Premarital counseling, so important. If you know newlyweds, send them to premarital counseling.
And possibly having a full brain, fully grown brain when you get married is also, yes, please. I did not. I was very young. And so I didn't even think about these things. I'm like, we'll just figure it all out as we go
Love
along.
is all you need.
Yes.
Yeah, we did the same thing. We'll just figure it out. We were young, and now we're like, oh my goodness, we've been married for almost 10 years, and maybe we need to reevaluate some things.
I love that. Yeah. And it's if you have safety in your relationship, you can do that. And I love that.
Okay, we have 2 more comments coming in, and that I know for sake of time we'll end.
Okay.
But any other questions that anyone has, feel free to continue to put them in the chat. We can keep these going. The first one is comment. I noticed that sometimes in relationships.
Like, what you mean?
Okay, there you go.
I noticed that sometimes in relationships, we're trying to talk to the inner child of our spouse versus the inner child within us. How do we make sure that our inner child isn't taking over the relationship?
Wow. Wow, that's a really big question. I know for my experience with healing my inner child, I think that's what you got to work on, is healing that, talking to them. When I say them, it's because I spoke to my 6-year-old self and my 15-year-old self when I was doing the inner child work, healing all that. And I don't really take that into consideration now. I don't know if that's typical or not, but that's not something I take into consideration now. It was an issue before, and the triggers, I would be like, oh gosh, that's my 6-year-old self being triggered. And so I think doing that healing work and seeing what was needed or what is needed might be helpful.
That's literally what people hire me to do.
Awesome.
There's lots of techniques where we can, recognize that we are in our inner child, that is our adaptation that's wreaking havoc in our relationship now. And so, yeah, reintegrating and reparenting that inner child, there's lots of different ways to kind of talk them down, to put them in the back seat, strap them in. They're always going to be riding in the car with you, but they shouldn't be driving.
Yeah, I love that. No, they're too little to drive.
Last one. Is there peer pressure to be a traditional wife or boss babe? Feelings of guilt, shame, community, exile.
Yeah.
Depends on the community you're in, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely the community who you're surrounded with,
Yeah.
or around, can possibly play a big part in that. But I think
Yeah.
that goes back to just learning to be true to yourself, despite who you're around. So it can be peer pressure to some people, and then others, it's just like, I'm really confident in this way over the other, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because when you're sure of yourself and saying that this is what I want to do. I remember my dad when we decided that I would stay home starting with our third child. That's something my husband and I decided together. And I remember my dad trying to he was like giving me back in the day when we had newspapers, he was giving me ads. And I was like, why? And he's like, well, you should probably go back to work. And it was having to have that discussion, say, my husband and I have decided this is what we're doing for our family, and having that discussion, rather than this is what you quote unquote should be doing. Don't let people should on you because be secure in yourself to be able to move forward the way you guys have decided together.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to just remember who's going to answer for your life at the end. It's you, right? So you got to do what feels good to you. And yes, definitely counsel with your husband and figure it out together, and try something for a little while, and if it doesn't work, then you renegotiate.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for being here. At the end of the day, the goal was to get to a happy medium. There is no right or wrong. There is no yes or no. There's a lot of gray and a lot of decisions that need to be made. But through healthy communication, through those conversations, through figuring out what makes the most sense for you is where we all land in that happy medium stage. So if you would like to connect with our guests further, all of the information is in the description notes. You're more than welcome to connect with them. And until next time, bye, everyone.
See you.